I'm Amita Anand, and I've been fortunate enough to be one of the winners of Write India Season 1 as well as Season 2. I hope all of you are staying home and staying safe. Unfortunately, that's the standard greeting for today, isn't it? It's so hard to get away from talk of quarantine and lockdown. To be honest with you, when I was roped in for the second episode of Write India's Pass the Story Challenge, I was excited, but also a bit nervous. In the last episode, 4 of our writer friends have strung together a hilarious story. But this time, the flavor is very different. The prompt was for something dark. If that was jalebi, then this is more like dark chili chocolate. And how does one think out of the box in a situation like this? When you feel like your mind is under lockdown and with 2 young kids in the house as well. And that's when I thought that maybe we need to look at the box a little more closely. After all, within the box is a kaleidoscope of stories being created every day. In this extraordinary situation, there might be marriages falling apart and romances blooming, and maybe a secret unraveling. And that brings us to this part of our story. Please let me read for you. The Quarantine Quandary. Varun's head throbbed. Getting a migraine was never a good sign. The strain of keeping his secret from Amara was getting to him. It had been stupid of him to get stuck in this situation. Now there was no choice but to continue with the fast. If only he had thought ahead this morning, but he had been taken by surprise. She had rung the doorbell at sharp 7 a.m., a huge basket in her arms, and an even bigger grin on her face. The fact that she looked heartbreakingly pretty, even without a trace of makeup, hadn't helped. "Quarantine goodies! Surprise!" she chirped happily. "You said that the idea of being quarantined with me was very romantic, didn't you? And we have never spent the day together. I thought it would be a great way to get to know each other better." Wow, it's quite a surprise, was all Varun managed to splutter out. Amara looked crestfallen. "It's a silly idea, isn't it? I'm too impulsive sometimes. It's just I've been dating for months and there's so much about you I don't know. I feel like there's a wall I come up against." What could Varun say after that but welcome her in? The truth is that he had been dreaming of a chance to spend time with her since months too. But he had stayed away deliberately. Now faith in the unlikely form of a virus had intervened. He told himself that it was harmless. They were just watching movies and playing board games. But it was the best day he had probably had in all his life. And he realized that he liked her a little too much. So much so that he was beginning to forget that she was not his girlfriend but his brother's. She had no clue, of course. She didn't even know that they were identical twins. In fact, not a soul did. It had been that way since the accident, when they were still teenagers. He had believed that he lost Arun too, in the accident along with his parents. His grand aunt had taken him in, but those days, maybe months, maybe years, were just a blur. All that he remembered were the dark nights and the vicious whispers that his brother had caused the accident somehow. That hurt him the most. His brother wasn't evil. There might have been incidents in the past, but he was just a naughty child then. He had always looked out for Varun, who was the quiet, sensitive one. Arun was bold and charming, though he did have a nasty temper when crossed. But Varun had always looked up to him. Then slowly he started emerging from the mist of grief when he started noticing the signals that Arun was still alive. He convinced his great aunt to let him start living by himself in the old ancestral villa in Seoul that was empty at the time. His grand aunt was worried about him staying alone in that secluded spot. But she was on her deathbed herself and didn't have the energy to argue for long. From that time, Varun knew that now it was his turn to protect his brother from the world. He shared his name and identity with him. Arun worked in a nightclub and slept all day. Varun stayed home and worked as a graphic designer. They were very careful to never merge their worlds. For the world, it was Varun Pai who lived there, and that's the way it would continue. They had each other and was more than enough. Until now. If the curfew had not been extended, it probably still would have been fine. But at 9, they had realized it would be impossible to get Amara transport to get back from this out-of-the-way place. And that's when Varun began to fear what would happen when his brother woke up. And the headache began. A knock on the bathroom door brought Varun back to the present. "You okay? You've been in there since ages," Amara called out. Yeah, fine. Varun forced himself to sound jovial. "I'll be out in a minute to join you for dinner. Just sanitizing before eating, you know." Amara chuckled. "Okay, waiting for you." Listening to her fading footsteps, Varun felt sad because he knew he wouldn't be joining her. His time was almost up. He looked up at the mirror which he'd been avoiding so far and made eye contact with his reflection. "Hello, Arun," and his reflection smirked back. Well, that brings us to the end of this part of the story. Aren't you glad that at least you aren't sharing your space with someone like that? And now I pass on the half-woven story challenge to a most capable storyteller, fellow Write India winner, and author of acclaimed novel Sutapa Basu.
Hi, I'm Sutapa Basu, and I'm going to be continuing the story that Amita has started as a part of To Be Continued. So listen while I read. Amara turned as the bathroom door clicked. "All sanitized?" "Yes, my dear," Arun said and grinned. Amara's smile faded and a quizzical look came into her eyes. She wondered, "My dear?" Arun has never said that before. Then she recovered quickly. "I have laid the table with all the goodies. And there's a surprise." She grinned at him. "So let's go. What are we waiting for?" Arun said, walking briskly into the drawing-cum-dining room. Amara followed him. The table was laid with gleaming crockery and cutlery. 3 big bowls with glass covers stood in the center, along with a couple of crystal candle stands. Arun halted. He took it all in silently. Beside him, Amara watched his face expectantly. "Where did all this come from? I don't recognize any of it. Where did you find them in here?" Arun's voice held a sharp note. Amara's face fell. No, Amara explained with a candid smile. "I brought them over. They're all mine." "Oh, let me light these candles," she said, moving towards the kitchen for the matchbox. Eyes narrowed, Arun watched her as she returned with the matches. Striking one, she lit both the candles. Arun stretched a hand to the wall and doused the electric lights. Now warm candlelight flickered over the silverware and crystal. As Amara smiled at her handiwork, Arun came up behind her. "You shouldn't have gone into all the trouble," he said. "Well, I thought it would be romantic to have a candlelight dinner," said Amara, looking up at him. "Actually, we don't really need romance," he said, staring down at her, his dark eyes holding something murkier. Amara's face took on a puzzled look bordering on apprehension. "Not for what I have in mind," Arun announced, clasping her right wrist and twisting it behind her back. Amara's cry of pain was lost as his laughter echoed around the room. That was my part. And now I will be handing over the baton to Nainesh Jadwani.
Hey guys, my name is Nainesh and I am the winner of Write India Season 1. I'm really excited to be part of this initiative by TOI Books called #To Be Continued. After hearing Amita's and Sutapa's narration of the Quarantine Quandary, which is a great title by the way, Amita, it is now my turn on the stage. Well, in this case on the ledge because I'm sitting on a window ledge. Anyways, here we go. Varun's head throbbed. He tried to open his eyes, but the bright morning sunlight felt like needles being jammed into his eye sockets. He grunted as he tried to get out of bed, opening his eyes just wide enough. Varun's migraine was gone, but the throbbing of his head was of a different kind. It was a hangover. Arun, God damn it, he whispered in disgust. As he stepped into his bathroom, still not recalling the fact that Amara was supposed to have spent the night, he splashed cool water on his face. A sudden wave of nausea churned his stomach and he had to grasp the sides of his wash basin to keep it together. He inwardly cursed Arun for always letting him bear the brunt of his nighttime escapades and straightened up to look at the reflection on his mirror. "She was fun" was scribbled on the mirror with what seemed like magenta colored lipstick, and it was terminated with a sinister looking smiley. The first thought that Varun had was, we don't have any lipstick in the house. Is that Amara's lipstick? Varun's eyes widened and he rushed to the bathroom, not even bothering to shut the tap. The old Salem villa had 3 bedrooms and a large kitchen, opening up into the drawing-cum-dining room, which in turn opened up into a sprawling lawn outside. Varun rushed to the adjacent bedroom. Amara was nowhere to be found. But he could see the massive picnic hamper she had brought with her, lying open in the corner, with some of her clothes strewn around it messily. He then decided to check the last bedroom, but as he was passing the dining table, his eye caught the mess. The crystal candelabrum had toppled over, and it was a miracle that the delicate item had not shattered. The tablecloth was charred and partially burned around the area where one of the candles had fallen. There was a broken plate on the floor in the far corner, and on the dining table there was an almost empty bottle of wine fallen over, with 2 wine glasses resting sideways, precariously close to the edge. Varun noticed a dark patch in the carpet below. It seemed something had spilled there last night and had long since dried. It looked like wine, or gravy, or blood. His chest heaving as he sucked in heavy gulps of air in hyperventilation, Varun opened the sliding glass door and stepped out into the lawn. The sun beat down upon him as he squinted his eyes, trying to look everywhere at once. "My God, what the hell did you do, Arun?" Varun whispered under his breath. He collapsed on his knees on the wet grass and started slapping his head in some insane attempt to wake up his twin brother, so that he may answer his questions. Varun stopped suddenly. Was he hearing another sound? He looked to the side, trying to point his ear in the direction of the sound. It was a soft clanging, as if a skillet or a stainless steel pot were banging against something. It was coming from the kitchen. "Amara?" escaped his lips as he got up off the grass heavily and ran to the kitchen. As he ran, his call got louder. "Amara!" He screamed, calling for her, hoping to God she was okay. As soon as he entered the kitchen, he stopped on his tracks. His head tilted sideways, not unlike a confused dog, as a look of disbelief descended upon his face. Well, that was my little contribution in trying to make this poor Varun's life as miserable as possible. I will now hand over the mic to Vasudha, who will bring up the 4th and final part in this narration.
Hi, I'm Vasudha. Vasudha Gulati, and I shall be continuing the story from where Nainesh left you, with Varun searching for Amara and rushing to the kitchen. Please excuse me, I'm going to be looking at the screen behind me for some of the text. A large steel pot lay on the floor in front of him, on which an injured pigeon flapped. God damn you, Arun! Why do you have to be so jealous? He moaned. It was the white one he had been feeding for months now. He hadn't dared to name this one. After his last pet, Sam the mongrel, had been thrown off the roof in one of Arun's jealous fits. He looked down and saw the agony in the bird's eyes. There was only one humane thing to do. He stroked the pigeon's graceful neck for one last time, and then in a swift stroke he broke it. He had enough practice. A gasp startled him, and he looked sideways into a pair of pain-filled, wild eyes. Amara! She lay huddled in the corner of the kitchen. Her pants were off, and torn blouse hung from one shoulder. Her hands were tied behind her, and her feet with duct tape, giving her the impression of a broken doll. There was a nasty bruise turning blue just above the dimple on her left cheek, and her mouth looked like a gash with lipstick smeared around her plump lips. He rushed towards her, and she shrunk back as a scream of terror escaped her lips and she passed out. Varun swayed for a moment as a wave of nausea hit him. Then, finding his feet again, he picked Amara up and carried her over to the spare bedroom to lay her gently on the bedspread. He quickly cut away her restraints with a scissor and her remaining clothes, and then covered her gently with a blanket. She looked like a damaged angel. Varun sat down in a chair with his head in his hands and tears streaming out of his eyes. Hours later, her senses returned, but Varun, slumped in a chair, did not notice. Her eyes fluttered open. It only took her a split second to remember the horror of her situation. She looked at Varun and felt her unrestrained arms. The first instinct was to run. She tried to get up, but pain pinned her down. Despite her fear, Amara was a girl who knew she must keep her wits about her if she wanted to get out of here alive. A moan escaped her lips. Varun looked up. Amara, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, he sobbed. Let me explain. It wasn't me last night. It was Arun, my brother, my identical twin. She looked bewildered. Arun? Aren't you Arun? No, I'm Varun. I would never hurt you like that. I would never treat you like he has. She tried to sit up and couldn't. Varun rushed to help her, but she flinched away. Please trust me, Amara, he said, and then told her this whole sordid tale of the brother who woke at night. I don't know what to do. He torments me day and night, but I love him. He's my brother. Amara was not a fool and could see the deep shit she had landed herself into. She let him play out the fantasy. She was in the middle of nowhere. She had told no one she was coming here. And it would be days before someone would miss her because of the lockdown. She alone had to save herself. Varun, it is Varun, right? She grimaced. Could you help me sit up, please? Yes. Her skin crawled as his hands touched her, but she did not let her face betray her revulsion. She could feel some of the strength returning, but the pain in her lower extremities was brutal. It would take a while before she would be able to move on her own. She needed him to be distracted. So, So where is he now, that brother of yours? She asked. Varun's eyes darted through the open door to another closed one across the hall. In his room, sleeping. His hand caressed her cheek and she flinched as it grazed her bruise. Oh, that must hurt. He quickly got up and went into the bathroom. She tried to push herself up, but before she could, he returned with a bowl of warm water and a sponge and tenderly cleaned her face. So beautiful, he murmured. I wish I could be free to love you. Can you not leave him and run away with me? She asked gently. No, I have to look after him. If I leave, he will become worse. I sometimes wish he had died in the accident and I would have been able to live my life. But he didn't. So what can you do? Sometimes I wish I could kill him, Varun said bitterly. Amara sucked in her breath. So why don't you? Because he's my brother. He's my twin. Then we can never be together, she said. You know, I like you better than him. But he's your boyfriend. Not after what he did to me. I wish I had met you and not him. Are you sure? All the girls seem to love Arun. I'm just a pale shadow. No, you aren't, she said. You are kind. You are gentle. He is brutal. Do you love me? More than life itself. When will he wake up? When the night falls. So we have very little time to escape. Escape? From here? Where else? What else? So we can both be free of him and love each other, Varun. But how? Before he wakes up, we can be miles from here. My car is outside. But I cannot drive. I can, Varun. I just need some clothes and a painkiller. Can you get me those, please? I can't. There's no time to lose by thinking, Varun. Come, we'll be away before he's awake. He will never trouble you again. You love me, right? I will help you get away. Just listen to me. Everything will be fine. Varun looked at her hopefully. Was she the answer to his Arun problem? Could he actually leave Arun behind? What should I do? Get me something to wear, Amara said. Her vitality was returning. It is still afternoon. We will be miles away before he wakes up. Oh, okay. But hurry! Varun rushed to the dining room and found Amara's pants. They would do. He pulled out one of his t-shirts from his cupboard and went back to her. She was sitting with a sheet wrapped around her. She took the clothes with a look of sweet gratitude and his heart sang. Life would be good. You get dressed. Will you be able to manage? Should I help you? She waved him away. She would not have him touch her so intimately again. No. You go pack. You pack some things you'll need. It's a lockdown. We won't be able to buy anything. Go, quick. Amara tried to dress as fast as she could. She needed to get away before he came back. But where was her purse? Her keys were in it. She got up and hobbled towards the dining room, all the while glancing at the locked door at the far end of the hall where Arun slept. Varun threw some things into the bag and decided to leave a note on the mirror he shared with his brother. He would not look at his reflection, he decided. He wrote, with Amara's lipstick, GOODB. And then his eyes met Arun's. His reflection smirked back. Amara was reaching for her bag and looking for her keys when she heard the sound of bells that were on her keychain of her car keys. She slowly turned around. "Hello, my dear," Arun said as her blood ran cold. Varun loves broken things, while I love to play with them. He threw his head back and laughed. Amara's hand clutched the knife behind her back. She had been to the kitchen before she went to the dining room. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed our story. In these difficult times, stories make life easy. I hope you're staying safe in isolation with your families, being safe and being loved. Thank you again.